You slept 8 hours, you set your alarm, you even went to bed early. But when you wake up, you feel like you've been hit by a truck. Eyes heavy, brain foggy. You reach for coffee like it's life support. Here's what nobody tells you. Your brain isn't broken. It's dehydrated. And that morning exhaustion you feel, it's not laziness, it's neurobiology. In this video, I'm going to show you the science of why you wake up tired. I'll give you the neurological mechanisms behind morning fatigue, and I'll walk you through protocols backed by neuroscience to fix it. Today, not next week. Today. Because the solution isn't more sleep. It's understanding what your brain actually needs to function. And I'm going to tell you a story about someone who figured this out the hard way. Meet James, 34 years old, software engineer, high performer. Every morning, same routine. Alarm goes off, he drags himself out of bed, stumbles to the kitchen, makes coffee. Double shot, sometimes triple. By 10 a.m., he's functional. By 11 a.m., he's crashing. By 2 p.m., he's drinking his third cup just to stay awake. He thought this was normal. He thought everyone felt this way. But here's what James didn't know. He wasn't tired because he needed more sleep. He was tired because his brain was dehydrated, his glucose was crashing, and his nervous system was in a chronic state of stress. And the coffee? It was making everything worse. Let me explain. Let's start with the biology. Your brain is 75% water. Not metaphorically, literally. 3/4 of your brain tissue is water. Your neurons, the cells that allow you to think, remember, focus, are floating in cerebrospinal fluid. That fluid is mostly water. When you sleep, you're not drinking. For 6 to 8 hours, your body is running on reserve. You're breathing out moisture with every exhale. You're sweating, even if you don't notice it. Your kidneys are still filtering toxins, pulling water from your system. By the time you wake up, you've lost approximately 500 to 700 milliliters of water. Here's what happens when your brain loses even 2% of its water content. Short-term memory drops, focus deteriorates, reaction time slows, decision-making becomes impaired. Your neurons literally can't fire efficiently because the electrical conductivity between them decreases. Think of your neurons like electrical wires. They communicate through electrical signals, but those signals require water and electrolytes to conduct properly. When you're dehydrated, the signal weakens. It's like trying to run a computer on a dying battery. Neuroscience research shows that dehydration affects the prefrontal cortex first, the part of your brain responsible for decision-making, focus, and executive function. That's why you wake up foggy. That's why simple tasks feel hard. Your brain is running on low battery, but here's where most people make the mistake. They wake up dehydrated, and the first thing they do is drink coffee. James did this every single day. Coffee first. Always coffee first. Coffee is a diuretic. It makes you pee, which means you're taking a dehydrated brain and dehydrating it further. You feel a temporary boost because caffeine blocks adenosine, the molecule that makes you feel tired, but you're not adding energy, you're just masking exhaustion. By 11 a.m., the caffeine wears off, the adenosine floods back in, and you crash. That's not a caffeine problem, that's a hydration problem, and most people respond to the crash by drinking more coffee, which creates a cycle. Dehydration, caffeine, crash, more caffeine, more dehydration. James was stuck in this cycle for years. He thought he had a caffeine dependency. He didn't. He had a hydration deficit. Here's what changed everything for him. One morning, his doctor ran blood work. Everything came back normal except one thing. His sodium levels were slightly low. Not dangerous, but low. His doctor asked, "How much water do you drink in the morning?" James said, "I don't. I drink coffee." His doctor said, "Try this for 1 week. Before you touch coffee, drink 500 milliliters of water with a pinch of sea salt. Just 1 week." James thought it sounded ridiculous, but he tried it. First morning, he woke up, forced himself to drink the water before coffee. Within 20 minutes, something shifted. His brain felt clearer. Not wide awake, but clear. like the fog had lifted slightly. By day 3, he noticed he didn't need as much coffee. By day 7, he was waking up feeling more rested than he had in years. Here's why it worked. Hydration before caffeination. The moment you wake up, before you touch coffee, before you check your phone, drink 500 milliliters of water with a pinch of sea salt. Why salt? Because water alone doesn't hydrate your neurons. You need electrolytes. Sodium, potassium, magnesium, these minerals restore the electrical conductivity in your brain. They allow neurons to fire efficiently. Andrew Huberman, a neuroscientist at Stanford, calls this the morning electrolyte protocol. And studies show it can improve cognitive function by up to 30% within the first hour of waking. Think about what's happening at a cellular level. When you drink water with electrolytes, you're not just hydrating your body, you're restoring the ion balance in your neurons. Sodium and potassium work together to create the electrical charge that allows neurons to communicate. Without them, your brain is trying to send signals through a broken circuit, half a liter, pinch of sea salt, before anything else. This is Protocol 1. James started doing this every morning, but he noticed something else. Even with hydration, he'd still crash around 11 a.m. Not as hard as before, but still a noticeable dip in energy. He couldn't figure out why. Then he looked at his breakfast. Every morning, James ate the same thing: cereal with milk, orange juice, maybe a banana. High in sugar, low in protein. And that was the problem. Protocol 2, don't spike your glucose in the morning. Here's what happens when you eat high-sugar cereal, pastries, or even fruit juice on an empty stomach. Your blood sugar skyrockets. Your pancreas releases insulin to bring it back down, and then it crashes hard. Your brain uses 20% of your body's glucose. It's the most energy-demanding organ in your body. When that glucose crash hits at 11 a.m., your brain is starving. That foggy, exhausted feeling? That's not laziness. That's your brain running out of fuel. Neuroscientists call this reactive hypoglycemia. Your body overcompensates for the sugar spike by releasing too much insulin, which drops your blood sugar below baseline. And when your brain doesn't have glucose, it can't function. James didn't know this. He thought he was eating a healthy breakfast, but he was programming his brain for a crash. So he switched. Instead of cereal and juice, he started eating eggs, avocado, Greek yogurt, nuts, protein and healthy fats, foods that stabilize blood sugar. Within 2 days, the 11 a.m. crash disappeared completely. Here's why. Protein and fats are digested slowly. They release glucose into your bloodstream gradually, not all at once. This gives your brain steady fuel instead of a spike and crash. It's like the difference between throwing gasoline on a fire versus adding logs. One burns fast and dies out. The other sustains. Neuroscience research shows that a protein-rich breakfast increases dopamine and norepinephrine, the neurotransmitters responsible for focus and motivation. You're not just eating, you're programming your brain chemistry for the day. When you start your day with protein and fats, you're telling your brain, we have sustained energy, you can focus, you can perform. When you start with sugar, you're telling your brain, get ready for a roller coaster. James noticed something else after switching his breakfast. His mood improved. He wasn't irritable in the mornings anymore. He wasn't snapping at his co-workers, because stable glucose means stable mood. When your blood sugar is crashing, your brain perceives it as a threat. Cortisol spikes. You get irritable, anxious, foggy. It's not a personality problem, it's a biochemistry problem. So now James had 2 protocols. Hydration with electrolytes first thing, protein-rich breakfast. His mornings were better, his energy was more stable, but he still had one problem. Some mornings, even after doing everything right, he'd wake up exhausted. Not every day, but often enough to notice. He couldn't figure out why. Then he learned about sleep quality. Most people think 8 hours of sleep equals good rest, but that's not how it works. Sleep isn't just about duration, It's about depth. And if your sleep quality is poor, you can sleep 10 hours and still wake up tired. Here's what James didn't know. His nervous system was in a chronic state of activation. He worked long hours, high stress, constantly checking email. By the time he went to bed, his body was still in fight or flight mode. His cortisol was elevated. His heart rate variability was low. He was sleeping, but his nervous system wasn't resting. This is where Protocol 3 comes in, non-sleep deep rest, or NSDR. NSDR is a 10-minute guided relaxation protocol developed by neuroscientists. It's not meditation, it's not a nap. It's a specific practice that puts your brain into a theta wave state, the same state you experience in deep meditation or just before sleep. Studies show NSDR can restore dopamine levels, clear mental fatigue, and reset your nervous system faster than a nap. It's like a system reboot for your brain. James started doing this in the afternoon when he felt the crash coming. Instead of reaching for more coffee, he'd close his door, put on headphones, and do 10 minutes of NSDR. The first time he tried it, he thought it wouldn't work, but within 5 minutes, he felt his body relax. His breathing slowed, his mind cleared. When the 10 minutes were up, he felt more rested than if he'd slept for an hour. Here's what's happening neurologically. When you're awake and active, your brain is in beta wave state, high frequency, high alertness. When you sleep, you cycle through different states, alpha, theta, delta. Theta is where restoration happens. It's where your brain consolidates memories, processes emotions, clears metabolic waste. NSDR allows you to access theta state while awake. You're giving your brain the benefits of deep rest without falling asleep, and because you're not fully asleep, you don't wake up groggy, you wake up clear. There are free guided NSDR sessions on YouTube. 10 minutes, that's it. Your brain gets the rest it needs without losing hours of your day. James started doing this daily, sometimes in the afternoon, sometimes before bed if he'd had a stressful day. It changed everything. His sleep quality improved because his nervous system was actually resting. He wasn't going to bed wired anymore. But there was one more thing James discovered, a bonus protocol. Something he could use when he needed to be sharp immediately and didn't have time for anything else. Cold exposure. One morning James woke up late. No time for the full hydration protocol. No time for breakfast. He had a meeting in 30 minutes and he felt like death. So he did something extreme. He turned the shower to full cold for 30 seconds. He wanted to scream. But when he got out, something had shifted. His brain was awake, sharp, alert, like someone had flipped a switch. Here's why. A 30-second cold shower or splashing ice-cold water on your face triggers a massive release of norepinephrine. This neurotransmitter is like nature's Adderall. It instantly wakes up your prefrontal cortex and clears brain fog. Norepinephrine increases alertness, focus, and energy. It's the same neurotransmitter that's released when you're in danger. Your body thinks, threat, wake up now. And your brain responds. You don't need an ice bath. You don't need to suffer for 5 minutes, 30 seconds. Cold water, face or body, it works. James started using this strategically. Not every day, but when he needed a fast reset. Before important meetings, after a bad night's sleep, when coffee wasn't enough. So now James had 4 protocols. Hydration with electrolytes first thing. Protein-rich breakfast to stabilize glucose. NSDR to reset his nervous system. Cold exposure for immediate sharpness. Within 2 months, his entire relationship with mornings changed. He wasn't dragging himself out of bed anymore. He wasn't dependent on coffee. He wasn't crashing at 11 a.m. He had energy, consistent, stable energy. But here's what surprised him most. His mood improved. His relationships improved, because when your brain has what it needs, water, stable glucose, rest, you're not irritable. You're not foggy. You're present. His wife noticed. She said, "You're different in the mornings. You're actually here." That's what happens when you fix the biology. You stop fighting your body. You start working with it. Here's what I want you to understand. Waking up tired isn't a character flaw. It's not laziness. It's not a sign that you're broken. It's biology. Your brain is dehydrated, your glucose is unstable, and your nervous system needs a reset. Most people don't know this. They think they need more willpower. They think they need to push through. But you can't willpower your way out of dehydration. You can't push through a glucose crash. You can't force your nervous system to rest if it's in chronic fight or flight. The solution isn't motivation. It's biology. 4 protocols. 1. Hydration before caffeination. 500 milliliters of water with sea salt. This restores electrical conductivity in your neurons. 2. Protein-rich breakfast. Eggs, avocado, Greek yogurt, nuts. This stabilizes your glucose and gives your brain sustained fuel. 3. NSDR when you crash. 10 minutes to reset your nervous system and restore dopamine. 4. Cold exposure for immediate sharpness. 30 seconds to trigger norepinephrine release. Try the saltwater protocol tomorrow morning, just once. Before you touch coffee, before you check your phone, drink the water. And notice what changes. Notice if the fog lifts. Notice if your brain feels clearer, because this isn't theory. This is neuroscience, and it works. If you want to understand why your brain feels foggy even after sleep and how to fix neuroinflammation, watch this video next. I'll show you the hidden triggers, processed food, chronic stress, poor sleep, and the science-backed protocols to clear the inflammation and get your sharpness back. I'll see you there.